Marty, good morning, buddy.
Gentlemen, good morning. Appreciate you adjusting, David, very much. I hope you guys are fantastic. The Texas Fightin Aggies are 2-0. Y'all ought to be thrilled down there. I heard you talking about how they should be graded. Shoot, dude, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. I mean, you didn't have your quarterback the whole game against Utah State, and when you had him, you were rolling. So I'd be happy as hell if I was you guys.
Not unhappy, just certain things that you see that are make you concerned, like the tendency still to give up the long run.
Correct.
And getting fourth down and not be, close 4th and 1 against Utah State. Those are some issues from last year. So
I'd be doing backflips that my team is vertical. That's what I'd be doing.
All right.
I would be so happy that offensively you look explosive. You look explosive at running back. You look explosive on the perimeter with those newly acquired wide receivers. And as I've said on this program before, I just think Reed he's just so dynamic. And it looks like he's so much more comfortable throwing the football vertically. To me, anyway. I don't know. You guys are there, but that's the way I see it.
Marty, I think the parity in college football, though, I find interesting because we think of it from the top 25 level or how deep the SEC is. But really, when you're looking at some of these inferior schools, and I mean that with respect, the Clemson-Troy game, the Georgia-Austin Peay game, LSU-Louisiana Tech, these are all games that fans want to see a certain score. And they were close, but I think there's a lot of variables there, right? Coaches are trying to experiment with new players, go very basic. What are your thoughts on why some of these games were a little closer?
I think, specifically with Clemson and LSU, you got to remember the emotion from which look, these are 19 and 20-year-old young men. And that's a very real thing. Clemson's coming off a really disappointing loss, and LSU's coming off a really euphoric victory. Both of them are going against teams that they should absolutely boat race out of the stadium in a quarter. And it didn't happen. And I think hangover is a part of that both ways. And you heard both coaches say that after their respective games. Once Clemson got it together and they had that crazy weather delay and all that, they looked way better. And I thought that Dabo explained well, specifically about his quarterback. It's all how you respond. So you're a guy who is so seasoned and highly touted in Cade Klubnik, and deservedly so. He's a great football player and a great leader of men. And you have this pick six, and you're losing to Troy at home, and there could be an old bleep moment there. But how do you respond? And that young man responded very well as expected. And they won the game. And then on the other side, same thing for LSU. They looked flat. Brian Kelly claims they got out-coached. I think in certain ways that's protecting your players. And they won the game. So ultimately that's what you're doing it for. And I understand there's areas that you want to be better and you're supposed to blow these guys out. But I think there's another layer, and it applies far more to LSU than it does to Clemson. Clemson's had a lot of continuity through the years with Dabo's staunch approach to the portal, etc. BK dominated the portal. He won the portal in the offseason. They have all these new guys. And with that comes the difficulty of growing chemistry and consistency within that. And that's why winning matters no matter what the actual outcome is in terms of how bad you beat them. What matters is the outcome in terms of what column the check is in. And they won. And then you have Florida. I'm sure you're going to ask me about that. There's a lot of Florida Gator fans who are ready to run Billy out of town, and were last year. And they had a hell of a turnaround once Lagway became the first-string quarterback all by himself after Mertz got hurt. And they were pretty darn good at the end of last year. They should not lose to South Florida on paper. But what Alex has built down there in Tampa, man, I mean, they ran Boise out of town. They dominated, they destroyed Boise. Boise was the 25th ranked team in the country at the time. And Florida was a top 25 team. I'm trying to find this stat, which you got. Here you go. You may have this stat, David. You may have already read it this morning. According to ESPN research, the South Florida Bulls are just the fourth team in the AP poll era since 1936 to win their first 2 games against ranked opponents while being unranked, joining the 76 North Carolina Tar Heels, 2008 East Carolina, and 2012 Oregon State. So that's a really good football team. But specifically to Billy Napier, all right, a lot of people want to point to their missteps as coaching missteps because they look at it being a coaching variable when somebody commits a personal foul by spitting in another man's face. Discipline is important. It's important to demand it. It's important to follow through on those demands. Billy Napier is a Nick Saban disciple. But he ain't inside that helmet, man. That is a personal decision to let your emotion get to that place. And yeah, it's fundamentals, so maybe this falls on coaching, but they snapped the football over the punter's head too. So I feel like context is important, and I know what Florida Gator fans are saying because my timeline is exploding with it. But I don't know. I can see why the frustration's there, and Billy said, look, it's not acceptable. Like he's saying that himself.
Okay, first of all, what would be the right way for Billy Napier then to respond to the player that spit on, got the personal foul for spitting, and then it actually led to them losing? And then I'm going to change gears and say, okay, we're talking about these games that Florida lost, and maybe some teams not looking so good. What do you make of Mississippi State going out and getting a big win over Arizona State?
I thought it was awesome. And they took it personal, what Coach Dillingham had to say about Starkville and the hotel situation. They obviously took it personal to defend their town and defend their tradition and defend their pride. It was a hell of a win, and one that not many of us expected, myself included, even though it was in Starkville, and man, that place is hard to win.
Yeah,
you
tell
hear
us
them
about
cowbells for 2 weeks after you leave there. And I'm thrilled for Jeff Lebby, one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game, and they had a great game plan, and I felt like that was one of the 2 or 3 statement wins of the weekend. And for them, though, you know, USF won on the road in the swamp. Mississippi State was defending their honor, and they did it well, and they let them know about it afterwards. So I think that was an incredible performance against a really good football team. Of course, went to the college football playoff last year, made a lot of noise. They don't have Scatterboo anymore. He's knocking people's heads off with the Giants now, but a great win for State. And what does that purport for them in the SEC slate? They're better than expected, better than predicted. So I'd be feeling good if I had one of them cowbells in my hand.
Marty, for A&M, what kind of statement can they make for college football? And look, we recognize it's a long season because they were very good last year, 7-1 to start, but they did lose that Notre Dame game. What kind of statement can they make by going to Notre Dame and winning here in week 3?
A season-defining one. And they're good enough to do it. Notre Dame is really good. I really like Carr a lot. He impressed me in that season opener, despite the loss. And they're going to be they're hard to beat at home. But I really like what I'm seeing from A&M, especially if Reed's healthy. I don't know. What's the update there? Y'all got to give me some news.
His dad tweeted out that he was fine and ready to go, or that he'll be
But
ready
what
to go.
got hurt? What was the problem?
That part we're still trying to wait.
Yeah, they won't say. Looked like he got hit on the ground.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe it was something to do with his shoulder, but that's just speculation. But his dad, again, put it on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that he was fine. So we'll see.
Well, that's coming from the family. That's good. And I hope he's okay. Again, I love watching that kid play. But if they do, David, go in there and get a victory, it can be one of those victories that propels you to incredible heights. And if it's a close loss, it can still give you the self-confidence going into the conference slate. But you don't want to go in there and get embarrassed, because that can be such a tremendous setback, and I don't expect that. I think they're going to go in there and compete their butts off. I really like the toughness that Elko has instilled in this group. It's not surprising, because that's his brand. That's his energy. And those offensive components, the guys on the perimeter, they seem to have really enveloped themselves and built a great chemistry really quickly. They must have worked really hard preseason together to build that. It's fun to watch. I was just watching them this morning before I came on with you guys. But no offense to Utah State, that's Utah State. Now we're going to South Bend, Indiana. So they can win this game. And if they do, again, it could be a season-defining moment.
So what would be the matchup that would give you some pause to think, okay, I'm concerned about A&M being able to hold up in this particular matchup? I
don't know that I'm concerned, but that defensive line has to be disruptive because the Notre Dame running game is going to be really good. Just is. And if they can be disruptive and limit Jeremiah Love and make Carr beat you vertically, I think that's, at least from my perspective, a winning formula. I think offensively, A&M has a real chance because they're so dynamic and in multiple ways offensively. I really like the way they run the football. So run it and stop the run. I mean, it's like going back to what you learned in 7th grade when they put you in a 3-point stance for the first time.
Marty, before we let you go, what's the latest with the podcast? Anything going on this week?
Yeah, we had Greg Olson on. It was just so good. And, I mean, he gets into everything. He talks about, I live in Charlotte, and I don't remember an athlete that has been as transcendent from our city as Cam Newton. But Cam can be so polarizing. And so I was so curious with Greg. Cam's been great to me, just for the record. But I was curious about Greg's opinion about Cam. You're not going to want to miss that. It's up now. I just put it on my Instagram story. He talked about brain trauma in football. That was very interesting. He talked about what he believes is broken in NIL and portal and how he believes it should be fixed. He talked about youth sports and what is going on there, which any of you guys who are parents that have traveling kids, it's a lot. And so it was really fascinating, wide-ranging conversation from somebody who's been great to me and to Jimmy Johnson, who won a bunch of NASCAR championships. So it's called Never Settle. Check it out. David, thank you for asking, and thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Marty. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Have a good one. Good luck to the Aggies.